most high common cosmic final results, and each time the same fruitless results were obtained. In this present period of the flow of time, when the abnormal being existence of the three-brained beings of your planet, particularly of the beings arising and existing on that part of the surface of the earth which is called Pearl Land, is already beginning seriously to hinder the normal harmonious existence of the whole of this solar system, my essence is manifested among you from above, in order that here, on the spot, it may, together with your own essences, find ways and means under the conditions already fixed here, of freeing your presences from the said consequences, now present in them, owing to the absence of foresight on the part of certain most saintly final cosmic results. After having said all this, Saint Buddha thereafter, just by means of talks with them, first cleared up for himself, and afterwards explained to them how the process of their existence must be conducted, and the order in which their positive part should consciously guide the manifestations of their unconscious parts, so that the crystallized consequences of the properties of the organ Kundabuffer, and also the inherited predisposition to them, might gradually disappear from their common presences. As the same detailed researches of mine made clear to me, at that period when the inner psyche of the beings of that part of the surface of the earth was guided by this genuine messenger from above, Saint Buddha, the said, for them very maleficent consequences indeed again began gradually to disappear from the presences of many of them. But to the grief of every individual with pure reason of any gradation whatsoever, and to the misfortune of the three-brained beings of all succeeding generations who arise on that planet, the first succeeding generation of the contemporaries of this genuine messenger from above, Saint Buddha, also began, owing once again to that same particularity of their psyche, namely of wiseacring, which until now is one of the chief results of the conditions of the ordinary being existence abnormally established there, to wiseacre with all his indications and counsels, and this time to super wiseacre so thoroughly that there reached the beings of the third and fourth generations nothing else but what our Honorable Mullah Nasruddin defines by the words, only information about its specific smell. Little by little they so changed these indications and counsels of his that if their saintly author himself should chance to appear there, and for some reason or other should wish to make himself acquainted with them, he would not be able even to suspect that these indications and counsels were made by him himself. Here, I cannot refrain from expressing my essence grief at that strange practice of these favorites of yours there, which in the course of many of their centuries during the process of their ordinary existence has gradually become, as it were, conformable to law. And in the given case, also, the same established and already fixed peculiar practice there served for the modification of all the true indications and exact counsels of Saint Buddha, and for the creation thereby of yet another factor for a still greater dilution of their psyche. This already long established practice there consists in this, that a small, sometimes an almost trifling cause is enough to bring about a change for the worse, or even the complete destruction of any and every objectively good outer and inner previously established what is called tempo of ordinary existence. Because, my boy, the clarification of certain details of the arising of such a trivial cause, which was in this instance a basis for the distortion of all the true explanations and exact indications also of this genuine messenger from above, Saint Buddha, may provide you with excellent material for a better sensing and understanding of the strangeness of the psyche of those three-brained beings who have taken your fancy. I shall tell you about this in as great detail as possible, and shall explain to you just in what sequence the said practice then arose there, which led to the following sad misunderstanding which began to exist there, which is still manifested particularly clearly. I must inform you first of the two following facts. The first is this, that I cleared up this misunderstanding much later than the period to which my present tale refers. Among other things, I made it clear to myself only during the period of my 6th descent there, when in connection with a question concerning the saint Ashyata Shiyamash, about whom I shall soon tell you in detail, it became necessary for me to find out about the activities of that genuine messenger from above, Saint Buddha. And the second fact is this, that unfortunately the basis of the lamentable misunderstanding was certain authentic words contained in one of the explanations of Saint Buddha himself. It turned out, indeed, that Saint Buddha himself had, in the course of his explanations to some of his closest initiates, initiated by himself, very definitely expressed himself concerning the means of the possible destruction in their nature of the mentioned consequences of the properties of the organ Kundabuffer transmitted to them by heredity. He then, among other things, told them very definitely the following. One of the best means of rendering ineffective the predisposition present in your nature of the crystallization of the consequences of the properties of the organ Kundabuffer is intentional suffering. And the greatest intentional suffering can be obtained in your presences if you compel yourselves to be able to endure the displeasing manifestations of others towards yourselves. This explanation of Saint Buddha, together with other definite indications of his, was spread by his nearest initiates among the ordinary beings there. And after the process of the sacred Raskuarno had occurred to him, it also began to pass from generation to generation. So, my boy, when, as I've already told you, those three-centered beings there among the 2nd and 3rd generation of the contemporaries of Saint Buddha, in whose psyche, already from the time of the loss of Atlantis, that peculiarity had been fixed, called the organic psychic need to wiseacre, began, unfortunately for the ordinary three-centered beings of that period, and unfortunately also for the beings of all succeeding generations, and even for those of the present time, to wiseacre and super wiseacre concerning these counsels of Saint Buddha. Then, as a result, a very definite notion became fixed, and also began to pass from generation to generation, that this same endurance should without fail be produced in complete solitude. Here, that strangeness of the psyche of your favorites then manifested itself just as it now manifests itself by their not having considered and not considering the obvious fact. Obvious, that is, to every more or less sane reason, that the divine teacher Saint Buddha, in advising them to employ that kind of endurance, of course had in view that they should produce this endurance while existing among other beings similar to themselves, and so that by frequently producing in their presences this sacred being actualization toward the manifestations displeasing to them of other beings similar to themselves, there might thereby be evoked in them what are called